Hello again, Warren here with the Peach State Prime channel, and if you couldn't tell from that intro, we have a little bit of a special video today. This one's going to be a little different. It's more of a home vlog than it is a travel video, but, you know, one of the purposes of the channel is to showcase, you know, toys, collectibles, nerdy stuff, and of course, you know, pieces of my collection here and there. Of course, you know, I've shown off some of my Transformers, Funko Pop figures, and all that before. But today, we're actually going to be looking at what is my favorite anime series, and that is Tenchi Muyo. So, to back up a little bit, of course, growing up, I was always into, you know, some of the more classic cartoons of the 80s and 90s. Of course, Transformers, you know, all the stuff on Fox Kids, Kids WB. But there were a couple of the, what I would call classic anime series that I was into. Of course, the first one I probably watched was Voltron, Defender of the Universe, from the 80s. Then, of course, I ventured into stuff like Speed Racer. And, of course, I was caught in the phenomenon that is Pokemon. Back when it first started to air, even back when it was in syndication before it was picked up by Kids WB and Netflix and whoever else ended up with it along the way there. Also watched, you know, a little bit of Dragon Ball Z here and there. But by and large, it wasn't until my later years in high school that I finally came across what I would consider to be my favorite anime. Which again is Tenchi Muyo. It's one of those animes that I feel is kind of neglected a lot and often forgotten. But before I go any further and start talking about, you know, how I got into it, my collection, why I like it, why don't we take a look and see what it's actually about for those of you that don't know. And instead of me trying to summarize it, I'm going to let someone else do it by the name of Peter Cullen. If you don't know who Peter Cullen is, he's Optimus Prime. So take it away, Peter.
A Shinto shrine deep in rural Japan. A boy trains diligently. Soon he will become a man.
Now is your time to grasp the future.
His name? Tenchi Masaki. In an instant, the reality Tenchi knows will be shattered.
What could that be?
He'll enter a world where alien princesses traverse the galaxy in living ships.
Let's get out of here!
Space pirates plunder at will. And galaxy police patrol the stars, protecting the innocent.
Pull over, Lightfoot! License and registration!
But the most important discovery he'll make is that 6 crazy women living under the same roof all have the hots
Tenchi! What?
for him.
Leave Tenchi alone!
Tenchi is mine!
Tenchi and I are meant to be together, don't you remember?
Just close your eyes, Tenchi.
I've got you!
This is it! The ultimate weapon!
Oh, Tenchi, you are just so sweet!
You crazy! Getting married to Tenchi!
Now he'll have to deal with bounty hunters,
Fire now!
ancient demons, mad scientists, and shared bathroom time.
You're a naughty boy, aren't you, Tenchi?
The universe needs a new champion. Tenchi needs some peace and quiet. Good luck.
Everyone calm down!
Tenchi Muyo, starting Monday, July 3rd.
No, stop it, girl!
Love stinks. Only Toonami.
All right, thanks, Peter. So, of course, that promo and the one that I showed at the beginning of the video were actually 2 of the teasers that were used by Cartoon Network when they started airing the show in the early 2000s, as part of their Toonami block, which, you know, had a lot of their action cartoons as well as anime. I mean, you had stuff on there. They actually did show the original Voltron show for a while. They had Batman the Animated Series, Dragon Ball Z, Gundam Wing, all sorts of shows over time. But anyways, so that, again, is in a nutshell kind of what Tenchi's all about, and it is a fun show. There's a lot of actions, a lot of sci-fi, a lot of humor, all of which are reasons why I like the show. How I got into it is actually very much thanks to those type of promos. So I didn't start watching the show initially when it started airing on Toonami. However, at night, this was in the days before Adult Swim aired on Cartoon Network, that programming block. And down in my room, I had a television, and when I'd go to bed at night, I'd see what was on. Well, Toonami started airing some of their programming at night. And one night, Tenchi Muyo just happened to be the thing coming on, and I was like, oh yeah, this is that show that Optimus Prime was promoting. Maybe I'll check it out, see how it is. And then I thought, okay, that was pretty good. Then I watched the next night. Then the night after that. Then it became a thing where I was watching it every single night when it would come on. And how I knew I was hooked was I had a VCR, yes, a VCR VHS tapes that, I could set up the timer to record certain shows. Well, I was going out of town, so I had set it up to record the episodes. And I had messed up on my programming, which was fairly common when it came to VCRs. And I missed a couple days of Tenchi episodes. And I was upset. So at that point, I knew, okay, I'm kind of hooked on this show. And then used to read these magazines, all sorts of different toy magazines. But the one that stands out was Toy Fair magazine. If you've ever heard of it, it was published by Wizard Publications. And of course, they covered all different toy and action figure news that would come up. And in one issue, they showed that there were some upcoming toys from the Tenchi series. And I was stuck because now there were toys. So there was definitely something to this show. As crazy and bizarre as it was, didn't seem like something I would even be interested in. But, after watching it, then there were toys coming and getting hooked on the show. I became very much involved with it becoming one of my hobbies. And ironically, over time, I collected all sorts of stuff. Like I said, there were the action figures that came out. There were little plush figures of some of the animal characters, specifically Ryo-Ohki, which is kind of it looks like a cross between a cat and a rabbit, and it can actually turn into a full-size spaceship. So, that was always a fun character, and there were little plush toys of that. I would collect the DVDs, the VHS, there were graphic novels, comic books, I even had some animation cells. I imported some Japanese figures. They were Build-A-Figures that you snap together themselves. I had wall scrolls, regular books, role-playing game books, just to have in the collection, not that I ever played them. All sorts of stuff. And it got to a point, not so much because, again, there wasn't a ton of this. This wasn't Pokemon, but as far as quality in a collection, I'd say it was pretty close to rivaling, Transformers. Nowhere near in size, but just, again, the actual pieces I had versus what was available. It was one of my more impressive collections over the years. Now, in the years that passed, I did end up selling most of it because I just, this was stuff I collected in my late teens, early 20s, and just didn't have a bunch of room to store it anymore. And anime just really wasn't a thing that I was, that much into anymore. there were some surviving pieces, and lo and behold, there was kind of a renaissance a few years ago where I said, hey, I remember that show. You know what? Let me go back and watch that again. So I bought the series. There's 3 different Tenchi series that are kind of the main ones that people talk about. There's what people call the original video animation, or OVA, which was the first one. There's Tenchi Universe, and then there's Tenchi in Tokyo, and they all start the story over fresh. Kind of like, you have different versions of Batman being animated. They're all their own thing. Just like that. My favorite being Tenchi Universe. So, and I'd argue that's the best one. It even spawned 2.5 movies. I say 3, but that's up for debate. Anyways, not to go down that rabbit hole. And so I bought the Tenchi Universe series on iTunes and watched it on Apple TV with my wife, and I was like, this show really was good. So I've actually rebooted my collection. I've never done that before, where I'm actually going back and as I find stuff, adding it back to my collection once again. And now would probably be a good time to show off some of those pieces. And I have 2 in the room here with me, and then I'll take you guys out and show you the shelves out there. And of course, first thing is this is a newer edition. This is a Tenchi t-shirt using some of the more comic artwork. Then we have 2 figures that were actually released by McFarlane Toys back in the day. And of course, this is the McFarlane, as in Todd McFarlane, creator of Spawn and all the toy lines that go with it. He had a 3D animation from Japan line. And it was a line that did figures from all different anime series and movies. And Tenchi was selected for one of those. And this is the character Ryoko. And, it comes with Ryo-Ohki, which is her pet / spaceship. This was actually not this very one, but this figure was the first figure I bought and added to my collection from Tenchi. So bought it again, and keeping this one in the package. It just looks good in the package. And then, on the back it has all the other figures in the line. But big fan of that one. And then Tenchi himself was in wave 2 of that line. And there never was a wave 3. There's rumors there was going to be a 3rd wave, another Tenchi character in that line, but it never did surface. So let me go ahead and I'll show you guys what else I currently have in my collection. And then we'll talk a little bit more about why I'm actually making this video in the first place. Alright, so we're going to start here, which is what I consider to be the main Tenchi section or annex of my collection. Got a few things here. Again, it pales in comparison to what I used to have. So, of course, front and foremost, these are little figures. They call them SD or super deformed figures because they look kind of, childish, a little shrunk down from their original proportions. These are 2 of the 3 sets that were released. I'm still looking for that 3rd. It was kind of limited release. I used to have it, but I think I'll come across it again another day. Back behind the figures, I have some of the books and DVDs and VHS. Over here, tell you what, let me move these out of the way. Over here, we have the 3 movies that came out on DVD. Back there is a sealed VHS copy of the first movie. I actually picked that up a couple years ago at a local convention. Then I got some CDs from some of the soundtracks, some more of the graphic novels. And then I have a DVD box set of Tenchi Universe, because I like having the physical media in the collection. And then, you know, if for some reason my digital copy goes AWOL, I have it as a backup. This big thing back here, and you know, you gotta love the lights. This big thing right here is a Japanese Laserdisc, volume 6 of the original series. Picked that up at a convention called MomoCon, again, a few years ago. And then at that same convention, I found something I never thought I would own. And so I actually own both of these for the first time. But this right here, let me see if I can take this down. This is actually a Japanese Super Nintendo game for Tenchi. It's a role-playing game. You know, I've played the downloaded ROM that's translated in English on both my computer and my phone in the past. And it's a fun game. It truly is. And it's just neat having the original game. And while I didn't get into Tenchi, and most people in the US didn't until the 2000s, it was around in the 90s. So Super Nintendo was king at the time it was first released. So obviously, you know, we didn't have like a GameCube game or anything like that. And then right here, I have a board of different enamel pins that, you know, I've picked up over the years. There's some Disney stuff on here, hard rock sticks, some scouting ones. But one thing I have down here, I picked these up back in the day and still hung on to them, are actually some Tenchi pins. We have a Washu up there in the upper right. Below her, we have Ryoko. And then going to the left, so we're going like we would be reading a Japanese manga. There's Mihoshi, then another Ryoko, and the one that says P Anime has Ryo-Ohki on it. And P Anime actually stands for Pioneer Animation. The same company, the Pioneer Electronics, they used to have an anime division. And they were very much responsible for bringing Tenchi over to the US. Alright, then last but not least, I do have this little keychain over here. It looks like that one pin with the P Anime and Ryo-Ohki on it. It's kind of that die-cut rubber. And they actually released a whole line of Tenchi keychains back in the day. I had them all unpackaged, but again, they were part of what I ended up offloading back in the day. But this one survived, and you know, I have it on display now along with some other stuff. Alright, so that's a look at some of my Tenchi stuff that I currently have, well, pretty much all of it. Like I said, it's one of those things that, you know, I'm just kind of picking up here and there as I come across it at conventions, used book, CD, DVD stores, other collectible stores. So it's kind of fun to have something extra to be on the lookout for out there. And, you know, as far as, so I talked about, you know, how I got into Tenchi and, you know, collecting it, but some of the impacts that it kind of had on me growing up. So, like I said, it was my second half of high school was when I discovered the series. And it wasn't long after that I saw a flyer in the hall. Our high school actually had an anime club. So, I ended up joining the club, which, you know, outside of Scouts, I was kind of socially awkward. I still am, kind of. But, you know, but anyway, so ended up joining the club. Gave me a little bit of, you know, the chance to socialize, make some new friends while at school. So it was a good outlet for me. And, you know, we would watch an anime episode or movie each meeting after school whenever we met. And, you know, while I did enjoy some of them, there are other anime series I watched. I gotta say, Tenchi remained my favorite. I consider myself an anime snob, because there were some people who's like, oh, anime anything, it's good. I was a little bit more particular in my tastes and all that, but still had fun watching everything. And again, there'd be the one-off here and there that I also enjoyed, and I did have some other anime on DVD and all that, but again, Tenchi was always up there. But anyways, that anime club led me to found another anime club that was between multiple schools at a local library. We'd meet, every so often, maybe like every other week or so at a local library in their conference room. And I would do very much the same thing, get together, talk about anything coming up, conventions, watch anime, and go from there. From there, that spun off into a third incarnation where I was actually involved in founding a scouting venture crew. For those not aware, a venture crew in scouting is where boys and girls were always permitted in the venturing program. That's nothing new, but ages 14 and up. And a lot of them focus on high adventure, caving, rappelling, rafting. We did have some interest there in camping and all that, but our main focus was actually on animation. Not just anime, but, all animation forms. Disney, classic animations, 3D, cell-based, and of course, anime was a part of that. And when we were designing our logo for our patch, a suggestion came up by me, and everybody was on board with making this our mascot. And this is actually our patch here that we had back in the day. And you'll see, I got this little string on it. It says, Crew 1940, a new breed adventure crew. And that is none other than Ryo-Ohki on our patch, and threw a pair of mouse ears on her. So, in the beginning, so there wouldn't have been, I would never have joined the anime club, founded a second one, or been interested in working on the venture crew, yet alone this patch, if it were not for Tenchi. So, it had impacts in other areas of my life. And, again, just always been, a fan of it. Just a lot of fun, something unique and different that, other shows, regardless of their country of origin, just didn't present at the time or even now. All right, so now that you're this far in the video, it's time I come out. Why am I making this video now? This old series, it doesn't really have, anything currently being released in the United States. Not a lot of merchandise for it, even back in the day, but yet alone now. So why all of a sudden? Well, it turns out there is something new coming, and something new that I'm going to be able to add to my collection. So, like I said, Tenchi actually debuted in the 90s. And at the time, there was a small comic company that got the rights to produce a 6-issue limited series of comics to promote the launch of Tenchi Muyo in the United States. This was Armiger Entertainment. And the individual issues have been long out of print. I know back when I was even collecting Tenchi, back in the early 2000s, it was kind of hard to come across these comics. And, there were other comics and graphic novels, like I pointed out, ones like this out there. And, these are actually English translations of Japanese comics that came out, or manga, however you like to pronounce it, that was released in Japan. And these came out as monthly issues and then were collected in these graphic novel volumes. And these were always fun, very enjoyable reads. But like I said, Armiger Entertainment, theirs kind of came and went. And it was announced probably around the middle of 2025 that Armiger Entertainment, the people behind it, were actually still around. And they obtained the rights to actually offer through Kickstarter the ability to purchase a limited run of those 6-issue comics collected in one single graphic novel collection. And there were several different tiers and stuff you could donate at. There's a hardcover, a soft cover. You could get them autographed. And then they were offering all sorts of additional items to go with it. There were bookmarks, patches, posters. I believe there were stickers, all sorts of fun stuff like that. Now, with that being said, I partook, obviously, in this Kickstarter to get the Armiger Entertainment Collected Edition. Now, again, one thing that makes this even more unique is that these comics were actually produced exclusively for the United States. So it's being called the American Omnibus, or Omnibus, however you like to say it. And so those are actually starting to come out now. It is February 2026 when I'm filming all this part of this video. And it should be arriving any day now. And my intent is to do an unboxing with my future self. And we'll take a look and see what, the latest Tenchi merchandise looks like. And, from what I've seen, the early reviews have been stellar. And, we'll take a look ourselves once it gets here. So, Future Warren, take it away. All right, thank you, Past Warren, and nice shirt, by the way. Anyways, so after about a month and a half out of filming that intro, it finally came right here. Came late in the day yesterday, and finally getting to unbox that, finally getting to see the results of the first Kickstarter or crowdfunding project I've ever participated in. However, before we do that, I realized I forgot to show one of the coolest pieces of my Tenchi collection in the intro when I filmed this again about a month and a half ago. So we're going to do that real quick. Then we'll get to the main event here. All right, and here it is. So this is a piece of artwork I had commissioned at the Anime Weekend Atlanta convention years ago, many years ago. We're not going to say how far ago, but I wanted a crossover between Transformers and Tenchi. And I always had this idea in my head that Ryoko versus Starscream would just be such an awesome fight. So I let the artist, kind of have fun with it. And this was the end result. And this is an original piece. It's not a print. And, I have it here with, my different crossover Transformers with other brands. You see Ghostbusters, Ninja Turtles there. If you go a little bit higher, you got Back to the Future and Target. So that's why I put this here, because it's a very unique and fun piece that I have that kind of fits Transformers and Tenchi. All right, now back to the unboxing. So, do want to go through. Okay, I'm going to use my lucky red box cutter here. It's what I use to open up pretty much all my, Transformers, toys, mail. Just find it to be a lot easier. Now, we are going to be careful because I don't know how close things are to the top here. But thankfully, the box is kind of pushed down so I can cut to the side here and not directly down and risk cutting anything. Now, I did receive my digital copy of the American Omnibus a while back. Actually, before I filmed the last video, but I haven't taken a chance to actually read it yet. I was waiting for the, the grand reveal here, the big item. All right, so it looks like it is nice and packaged in this bubble wrap here. All right, let's move the box out of the way. All right, so we do have not only the book, but the extras in here. They did a fantastic job making sure this arrives safely. Let's pull off the tape. All right. This is why I usually have stuff out of the box before I show it off on camera. Alright, well, looks like we got some of the extra starting to come out of the side there. Let's just... Okay, can we just pull it? No. Like I said, they did an excellent job packaging this. I think we need our box cutter back. Just gonna make our own way of opening this here. Okay, I think that ought to do it. Yep. Alright, so we got all sorts of goodies here. So, let's start with, okay. One of the extras I had ordered was the bookmark. And this is pretty nice, it has that, nice tassel on it. Of course, this represents the hilt of Tenchi's laser sword, also known as Tenchi or Sword Tenchi. It's complicated, you gotta watch the show. But, that's pretty cool. Glad I added that. And then, I saw them peeking out earlier. Yep, there they are. I did order the patches that were offered. So these are both Galaxy Police patches. These will pair nicely with my Ryo-Ohki Crew 1940 patch. So this is one that, almost as if, it's from a Galaxy Police uniform. Says Detective First Class, which of course is Mihoshi and Kiyone's ranks. So, I mean, if you were to cosplay or just, to have a fun patch, that's really cool. I've never seen anything like this created. And you can see in the outline here, this silhouette behind the GP, which, of course, stands for Galaxy Police, is Galaxy Police Headquarters. And then I got the other patch, which they listed, I believe it was called like the Do It For Her patch. Almost like a, like a propaganda Rosie the Riveter kind of deal. But this one does feature Kiyone and does say Detective Kiyone at the top. You still got the GP logo and the headquarters in the background. But Kiyone is front and center. And, I like this because it does have a character on it. And Kiyone is a fan favorite, which I understand that's why they chose to put her on a patch. Because she is often overlooked because she's not in every single Tenchi series. But, she is a great character. So it's neat that they chose to, honor her by putting her on the patch here. Then I also ordered a poster. Let me lift the camera here. This is a poster of the new artwork that was created for the American Omnibus for the cover. Believe for the soft cover. And, or what do you call it? Yeah, soft cover. So I really like that. It's nice, sturdy paper. We knew it was going to be folded, and that didn't, detract from it at all. But you got, Tenchi, you got Ryoko, Ayeka, Kiyone, Washu, or Little Washu, Sasami down there at the bottom, Mihoshi, and of course Ryo-Ohki right in the middle there. So that's a cool poster. And again, glad I included that. Now on to the main events. So they actually, along the way, in addition to the book itself, the omnibus, the comics, they did come up with this addendum book, which is actually an art book. So you see it has some nice art on the front. Looks like Tenchi and the gang's all dressed up to go to, a fancy gala or party. And it's a wraparound cover, so you got Washu, Mihoshi, and Kiyone on the back here, which is very awesome, and not gonna, go through every page, but, it does have an inscription on the front here. See, can we back up a little? Okay, there we go. Or dedication, I should say, not really an inscription, but you got some artwork from the different covers here. Of course, what was used on the front was also very much one of the part of the covers that were used, and he got an interview here in the back. So, pretty cool. I like this. And now we got the main event here. We have Tenchi Muyo, the American Omnibus Edition. And I did spring for the hardcover. They did shrink wrap this, which I really appreciate. Again, they made every effort to make sure it arrived safely. So the cover that they actually use here, this wraparound cover, is actually the same artwork that appeared on issue number 1, again, of 6, of the, first comic when it was released by Armiger back in the 90s. So it's nice that they did, choose to go with that for the hardcover edition. Again, for the softcover edition, I understand they went with the artwork from the poster, which is very nice as well. So we'll put the camera back down, and we are going to open this thing up very carefully. Hopefully very carefully. Oh, there we go. We made a break. We made a break. And my plan is to have this somehow displayed with my other Tenchi stuff out there with, like, the laser disc and the figures and, my classic manga and other media. All right, this will remove the glare for us as much as well. And you can see right there, there's Armiger Entertainment. Of course, who made this all possible. And we're actually, here, we're going to stand up and look down so that we have a better look at this. All right, and again, we're not going to go every page, but just going to show off some of it. It's nice and big. You got your funding patrons here. If you paid enough to have your name printed, I did not. Then, of course, you have your overview of Tenchi, and you have your breakdown of characters. Then you have the comic, which, the original comic was indeed in black and white, and this is no exception here. Because if they would have colorized it, you do lose some of the detail that was used. And there's a good shot of Tenchi's house there. And I can't wait to read this. So you got the whole story in one book for the first time ever. Again, you just look at that artwork they did. Well, now we got a glare, even without the plastic. But that artwork there, you got your, trio there of Washu, Mihoshi, and Kiyone. And, just an amazing job. Nice paper, has that new book smell, like it's fresh from the printers, which, of course, it is. And get to the back here. Yep. And it ends just like the original. All right. So that is a look at the Tenchi Muyo American Omnibus. The addendum, which is, again, the art book. Then we have, again, the poster of the newly created artwork. Our Galaxy Police patches here. Make sure I had that right side up. And then, of course, our bookmark. One other thing that was offered that comes... I know there's a couple other things. I know there were stickers that were offered. I opted not to get those, even though they were very nice, using the artwork from the comics. But, you know, I figured this was a nice package to get. And again, the first Tenchi Muyo merchandise since I don't know when. You know, definitely probably since, you know, the mid to late 2000s. I don't know. And I'm not counting the Japanese OVA continuations. You can watch those. I'm talking about, you know, physical merchandise. So it's great. One thing that Armiger did say in the very beginning is if this crowdfunding project or this Kickstarter project was successful, they will be given first pass or first rights to create additional stories featuring Tenchi and his, you know, and all the characters in comic book form. Basically continuing the story from the American Omnibus that came out way back in the 90s. And they haven't really stated a timeline for that, at least not yet, anything solid. However, I think this was a very successful campaign for them. So I look forward to the future of Tenchi Muyo, you know, with Armiger Entertainment. And who knows, if that catches fire, maybe we'll get something much larger, you know, released, whether it be additional merchandise. I'd love to see some Tenchi Muyo Funko Pop figures. You know, or you gotta see them for all the other classic anime series. Let's get some Tenchi ones out there. You know, and maybe we'll get dubbed versions of the additional content that came out in Japan more recently, or a brand new series. You know, Netflix is in the habit of, you know, doing live action and specialty series for, you know, anime, you know, classic anime. So maybe Tenchi could be a candidate for that. So anyways, thank you very much. I know this is a little bit of a long video for a home vlog, but I've never really had the opportunity to go into detail with my Tenchi collection before, yet alone something new, and to tell the story how I got into it. So thank you for hanging in there. You know, one thing I do have to call out is you do see, you know, the series is about Tenchi, you know, the character of Tenchi. However, on the comic, you have Ryoko right up front. On my shirt, you have Ryoko in two different places. So why would that be if Tenchi's the main character? That's because Ryoko's the best character. And I'm going to leave you with that. Anyways, thank you again for watching. If you like this video, please leave a like. On YouTube, and of course comment, you know, have you ever watched Tenchi? Do you like Tenchi? Don't like Tenchi? Is there another classic anime series you'd like to see get this treatment through Kickstarter? And of course subscribe for more just fun content in and around Atlanta, Georgia, whether that be here in my home, going to an event, an attraction, a fun restaurant or store, collectible store. You know, it's all underneath that umbrella. I do have a specialized Transformers channel because obviously they're surrounding me here. And that can be found at Peach State Prime Transformers on YouTube. So again, thank you for your time. Have a great day and God bless.